Namaste everyone. Welcome to this session which will introduce the IKS teacher training program that we have designed at our foundation. Before we move into the session, let us begin with an invocation. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. This invocation from the Upanishads truly reflects the principles of a Gurukulam, which talks about living together, having food together, and putting the energies together to learn something and be of benefit to the society. And also harmonize at the level of the natural forces, Adi Daivika, and all other beings around us, Adi Bhautika, and within ourselves, Adhyatmika. So welcome to this session. Initially, we had designed this session for people who had applied for the Acharya Devo Bhava fellowship. But then we realized that more people might be interested in knowing what this program is about. So we opened it up to a lot of people, and very heartening to see so many people interested in knowing about the program. I just share the screen here. So in this participation, we have members from Anadi Foundation. We also have parents whose children are in the Gurukulam, and we also have people who have applied to the Acharya Devo Bhava program, and others who are interested to know about the program. I'll give a brief presentation and then we will open it up to questions so that more can be brought out in understanding the program. So this is the orientation program, or just an introduction to what this whole program is about. So to just talk about Dharma Gurukulam and Anadi Foundation, this was started in 2015 by Sri Adinarayanan and myself. I'm Smriti Adinarayanan. Both of us are founders of Anadi Foundation, and in fact we were formerly computer science professors and researchers for more than a decade. And what we observed is that we used to interact with a lot of students. A lot of students used to visit home, and even during weekends they used to come back from their offices. They used to come on weekends to our house. And we observed that more of the questions were related to life more than computer science. That is when we felt that, we need to have that we need to reach out to a large number of youth, and also look at what problems they are facing and see how our traditional knowledge can help solve these problems. And that is why we started Anadi Foundation, for societal benefit. And volunteers at Anadi Foundation have rich academic, research and industry background. And of course, Anadi in Sanskritam means beginningless. So it is our prayer that everybody who comes in touch with the foundation through various programs have an opportunity to experience that beginningless nature within themselves, just as it's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And our ashram is located near Payani in Tamil Nadu. And we focus a lot on Indian knowledge systems, especially education through the Gurukulam, as well as rural education programs. Yoga, Ayurveda, Ganita, Nakshatra Vidya, Prakriti Vidya, all these are focus areas. And we also focus on community education and healthcare. We have programs for rural children. We have rural school going children, as well as rural youth in terms of skill development. And we also do community healthcare, where we organize Ayurveda camps, which benefits a large number of people located around the ashram. And the Gurukulam is located within the Anadi Foundation ashram. And we started Dharma Gurukulam very recently in 2021 June. And it is a K-12 Gurukulam, which means it's for school children at the moment. and for children about 10 years of age, and focuses on Sanskrit based knowledge systems. And what we did was that we found that there are many children who may not be specifically interested in Sanskritam, but maybe more inclined or more suitable to also learn Tamil based knowledge systems, because their Tamil is very, very rich in terms of, whether it is knowledge of Siddha, or whether it is the Kavyas, or whether it is the literature, or whatever it is. Tamil or knowledge systems are extremely rich. So what we did was we have also started Aram Gurukulam, which is a Tamil knowledge system based curriculum. So a few children from the next batch will be going through the Tamil based knowledge systems. And we also have the Leelavati Gurukulam of Computing. We just completed the it's a similar session yesterday, and good number of children have shown interest. Let's see how many of them come. It's basically after 12th standard, after 12th standard, women students can take up computing education, being at our own foundation. And since all of us have a computer science background, the idea is to blend IKS values and computer science and enable them to be future leaders. And the Dharma Gurukulam, it is integrated with NIOS. What we do is that for 8th standard, 10th standard, and 12th standard, we enable the children to go through the NIOS curriculum. And Sanskritam, Yoga, Ayurveda, Ganita, Nakshatra Vidya, Ecology, Go Seva are all focus areas of the Gurukulam. So we have a Goshala there. Children undertake Go Seva every day. And what we have done is that we have made the ashram self-sustaining in terms of using cow for, say, cooking fuel, that is cow dung for cooking fuel. And also we do agriculture based on cow dung and cow urine. All these elements have been integrated into ashram. So we have seen that in the past few months, we have completely eliminated the use of LPG by replacing it with gobar gas is one thing, and the other thing is cow dung logs. So that way, children also learn to live a very sustainable life within the campus. And we've also integrated practices like, say, chemical-free living, trying to reduce as much as possible the usage of plastic, unless it comes through the packaging process. And what we envision is that, we want to shape and create Bharatiya Vinyanis who are sound in our knowledge systems and create scientific innovations to solve global problems. And in today's world, we definitely see that, knowledge systems like yoga and Ayurveda have gained excellent prominence. Many people have started taking to yoga and Ayurveda. And this is changing their life in a very, very significant manner. And what has happened is that the younger generation also wants to know more about these things and are looking at these as, career opportunities. But nevertheless, there's so much to be done yet. Though we have provision, though we have a large number of students taking up Ayurveda or yoga, but still it's not enough. A lot of people are still taking to mainstream degrees. But still, but inherently the family has a thirst to take up the Indian knowledge systems. So the idea is of the Gurukulam is also to create opportunities for people who are interested in these knowledge systems to get a flavor either through the school education process or through various programs that we offer in terms of outreach programs or through teacher training or whatever means, so that the knowledge system spreads. And currently at the Gurukulam, we have about 25 children that is putting together the batch that is currently there. And they're also coming, in the next summer, there will be 2 batches of children. So that way, it is going to be a wonderful interaction that is going to happen daily. And these are some pictures from the ashram. In fact, a typical Ayurveda class happens on top of the tree because, that's where, sessions are, or knowledge is learned the best way. And we also have people coming from outside for storytelling sessions. These are all part of our own volunteer networks. And what we also do is that introduce children to modern sciences as well, in parallel with the Indian sciences, so that they are also able to confidently interact in the outside world. Because the Indian sciences, what it does is that it presents a certain worldview, and it has a lot of scope to be juxtaposed with the modern knowledge systems as well. For example, my husband and I teach a course on yogic neuroscience and yogic cognition at IIT Delhi. And what we typically do is that we present the yogic frameworks. We also present neuroscientific frameworks and juxtapose the two and see how how the brain can be studied, or how the brain of a yogi can be studied, or what happens to the brain when yogic processes are happening, or one takes up yogic practices like say asana, pranayama, dhyana, dharana, and such practices. And we present these number of scientific studies, one thing. We also give a certain experience through yogic practices. So what happens is that the philosophy, the practice, and science all come together. So, and the same thing can be achieved at the school level, where our Shastras, the philosophical aspects can come out, where the sciences from our own knowledge system can come out. And when living in a Gurukulam, all these principles can be practiced also, and also can be applied for the benefit of the society. So that is what we envision, and that is what we are currently doing at the Gurukulam as well. And you would see that why IKS? Here often now of late you see, because of the various initiatives that the government is taking, you often hear the term IKS, IKS everywhere. Now recently, in fact, we've been granted a project from AICT on using say machine learning for healthcare as well, where we're using the Indian knowledge systems. So all these are possibilities that exist for the future. As one progresses from school to college to research, all these pathways are existing, and a lot of encouragement is coming from the academia, from the research community, from the corporate, the industry as well. So when we look at various benefits, there are a number of benefits that are listed here. What we do at the Gurukulam is that not just focused on one dimension. All of you who are here may be introduced to some aspect of the Gurukulam or the other, or very passionate about the Gurukulam model of teaching and learning. So I'm sure you've already had some exposure to some of these dimensions. But nevertheless, what we have seen is that in a typical regular school, teachers do a fantastic job, no doubt about it. I myself am a product of the mainstream system. But what happens is that, at least I've noticed with some students, they go through this number of years of education, but then they come out wondering, what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of this whole education system? Where am I using this mathematics? Where am I using this physics? And what happens is that then because of the economic stability of the previous generation, the current generation also wonders, should I study only for money? Why should I study? Why should I earn like everybody is doing? Why not explore some things? So we've seen that typically as time, as we are getting, one can say that modernized or whatever it is, the current generation does not seem to value the same things that the previous generation was valuing, right? So what happens, many things are changing. Like, for example, a previous generation could stick on to the same job for many years, but now people switch job almost like every 3 months, or even say 3 weeks for that matter. And the younger generation are also thirsting for instant gratification. They need something very quickly. So what happens because of this is that knowledge is being offered in just bites, just catering to those needs. And also a lot of research says students can pay attention only for 8 seconds or 15 seconds or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And because of such research, even knowledge is being offered in bits and bytes. So what happens is that students come out of the educational process very, very dissatisfied with the whole thing. In the school, they may not realize, but once they come out, when they go to college, when they go through college education, they have a lot of questions. And this question has a potential to become a quest for life. And that is when they really start thinking, and that is when they want to also take an action and then see whether they can explore some alternate paths, unconventional paths for that matter. So that way we have seen that the Indian knowledge systems, when it is blended with a good sound philosophical background, can really open up the student to understand who they really are. The purpose of, as you say in Bharatiya education, true purpose is Atma Vidya, is developing an understanding of who we really are, be it the framework of Vedanta, or be it the framework of Sankhya, or be it the framework of Yoga Shastra, whatever it is. Yoga Darshan. So the purpose, it is always in terms of understanding who we really are. And in fact, looking at the Purushartha, not just Kama or Artha, but looking at Dharma, and then looking at the moksha perspective. So we always want to remove our limited identities and transcend these limited identities. And that is the core purpose of education. And one of the differentiating factors of Indian knowledge systems that I have personally seen is that in Western knowledge systems or the modern knowledge systems, everything is so diverse and everything feels so disconnected. So a student of physics is not able to relate to ecology. A student of chemistry is not able to relate to something else because knowledge is offered in compartments. But when we look at the Indian knowledge systems, they're all so integrated. Because if you see many of the knowledge systems, they are presented in the form of poetry or in the form of meters. So you will need to know, like, you'll need to know Shiksha, you need to know Vyakarana, you need to know Chandas, you need to know Nirukta, in order to understand many of these knowledge systems. When you look at Ayurveda, it is connected to astronomy. When you see astronomy, it is connected to mathematics. When you say mathematics, it's also connected to yoga in a way, because you see that the basic measurements in many of these systems is prana, like how much time it takes for the breath to come out and go inside, right? So how much is the duration of a breath? That becomes a measure in terms of, in terms of astronomy and mathematics itself. So you would see that all these knowledge systems are very, very interconnected in the Indian knowledge system. And when we bring this interconnection to a child, then what happens is that they see the environment as part of themselves and themselves as part of the environment. So such a deep interconnection is formed. So they start appreciating everything with empathy, love, care, kindness, because they understand that the entire universe is interconnected for that matter. So you would see that there are a number of benefits. Sanskritam is known to have neurocognitive benefits. And it also, what happens is that it builds on a lot of verbal intelligence, oratorical skills. Ganita, the Indian system of Ganita, we are used to do large numbers. Children currently at our Gurukulam, they can do large number of digits, and they can do mental calculations very comfortably without getting intimidated about mathematics. So that way Ganitam, and the beauty of Ganitam, or say for example, if we take Aryabhatiya or Ganita Kaumudi, or if you take Leelavati for that matter, the problems are presented in such a way that they model the real world situations. So people also, young children also develop the eye to model real world problems into mathematical problems. And when they stick on with this knowledge system, they can in fact convert it into computational problems. If you look at, globally, if you see, for example, the intercollegiate programming contest, ACM's ICPC, they're all real world problems. You'll have to model them as computational problems and write code for it. I'm sure that children who go through a Ganita curriculum can comfortably do that, because they're already doing that as a part of their Ganitam exposure. And Ayurveda builds awareness of the body and also awareness of various dravyas that are present there. Nakshatra Vidya, of course, it brings a lot of visual and spatial orientation, and daily observation of the sky connects one to the larger, universal phenomena as well. And there is so much in Indic ecology. For example, temples are one of the key centers of ecological preservation, be it the vanas, or be it the sthala vrikshas, or be it the temple tanks. They're all conservation of various dimensions of nature. So when one goes through an Indic ecology curriculum or Bharatiya Vijnana based on, or Paristhiti Vijnana, then what happens is that one it feels really interconnected with nature. And of course, Itihasa Niti builds in values, and it also brings viveka in terms of what is dharma and what is adharma in a very, very subtle way, not calling everything black and white, but gives a lot of scope for thinking about it and arriving at one's own understanding of what is dharma and what is adharma, and which is very much needed for today's society. And of course, yoga, it brings in a lot of neuroplasticity. It brings a lot of muscular flexibility. And when one engages in Dirgha Pranayama, then many structures of the brain are also changing. In fact, when one practices meditation, even trait changes happen, even behavioral changes happen. And we have seen typically at the Gurukulam, where children are exposed to good good number of hours of yoga on a daily basis, and their body, mind, and everything becomes quite flexible. So that way, yogic practices have immense benefit both for the body, mind, cognition, and at a very spiritual level as well. So all of these, though they look like sciences on the outer side, like but they are actually, in fact, very, very spiritual in nature as well. And that is where the Indian knowledge system connect very closely to Atma Vidya. Though in the Upanishads call all this as Aparavidya, but nevertheless they are closest to Paravidya, and hence it is important to invest on these knowledge systems together with whatever is available in the modern sciences. So why this particular teacher training program? As I already told you, our Indian knowledge systems have a huge potential to solve global problems, be it in health, education, economics, or ecology. You would see that there is a crisis, definitely all many of you would agree. There's an ecological crisis that is going on. You look at nations, like for example, some of our neighboring nations are going through a huge economic churning, and they don't have robust models to solve it. And of course the education process, you see that we were in mainstream education, and many a times we have noticed the teacher is unhappy, the student is unhappy, the parents are unhappy, and the administration is also unhappy. So a system where all the stakeholders are unhappy cannot be a flourishing system. So we need definitely churning, or we need transformation or enhancement or enrichment in the very model of how education is offered. And healthcare, we all know in the current situation, we do see that definitely insights from Ayurveda and yoga can really help to boost the immunity of people. And we see that very few children have exposure to these knowledge systems. What has happened is that their connect to the roots has been lost. For example, in many nations, they say that not knowing their history is considered as a security threat to the nation, because at any time they can just give away secrets of the nation because they are not passionate about the nation, right? And then, hence it is important that our own children are exposed to our own knowledge systems in whatever way possible. It could be a small amount or it could be an immersive amount. It's very important that they're introduced so that they feel connected to this land. In fact, as part of an exchange program, I spent 1 year in Italy for computer science research. And what I noticed is that the first thing that people would notice about me is not that they wouldn't know my name or background or whatever. The first thing they would know is that I am an Indian. And they would come to me and ask, do you speak Indian? I would say that there's nothing called Indian language. There are so many diverse languages. And I would just go into the geography and many aspects of it. And so you would see that your national identity almost becomes the first identity when you go out of the country. And that time we need to be representatives of this particular identity in whatever way possible. It could be cultural symbols like having a bindi or wearing a sari. It could be that way. Or speaking the language, bringing out the aspects of our culture, or engaging with them on a discussion, or sometimes engaging with them on a debate as well. And hence, if you have to engage in a debate, I have seen that many of our people are not able to engage in an effective debate because their exposure to our own frameworks of, say, tarka frameworks of debate or logic or whatever is not is not introduced to them. So we also need a sound system of logic to be able to counter certain narratives. So all these are part of our knowledge system training. So while several, we have tried to understand various curriculums in the country. Of course, we have traveled to a few, but also learnt about a few. We found that many curriculums are focusing on vocational training, or many of them are designed based on alternate schools are there, which are designed based on, say, sustainability, ecology, or some of them are, say, Veda Patashalas, or focus part of the Vedas, or whatever it is. Right, but then we felt that we also need to have a scientific Gurukulam. So where the contributions of science are enhanced. So what we did was, that is how we designed the curriculum at the Dharma Gurukulam, which blends values, which draws inspiration from the Vedas and of course the Upanishads, but at the same time brings out the scientific aspects of it. And the modern children, we have seen, develop aspiration to take, say, physics or computer science or psychology or sociology because of systematic exposure to their knowledge systems, right? From first standard to 12th standard, the physics teacher, whoever it is, or from 6th to 12th, the physics teacher is very inspiring. So the student takes up physics, or the subject is so engaging. Psychology as a subject is so engaging that they want to take up psychology after they finish their 12th standard. And hence we felt that when we expose the children to systematically through the Indian knowledge systems, definitely an interest can be created, at least in a small part of the children that we are talking to. And this can help them to take higher education programs, say in Sanskritam or Tamil or yoga or or say, for example, the Ayurveda. And many of these degree programs are currently there, and more degree programs need to be created for the future. If we don't have a demand, then where will the supply be? So this is also a way of creating a demand in that side. So, and teachers become very crucial to this transformative process. Whenever we talk about, say, for example, there were also a lot of electives that were introduced, even in NCRT, which are to do with the many of these knowledge systems. But then we found that many schools do not have teachers to take it up and offer. Even there is a, for example, Sanskritam teacher. Every school can have a Sanskritam teacher. Every school can have a yoga teacher, but not every school has that. That's either because there is no demand from the school, or sometimes for many of these knowledge systems, we don't have teachers to do that. Sanskritam, there are a lot of teachers available. But what about many of these knowledge systems, be it Ganita or whatever it is? We need teachers to get trained and offer these knowledge systems. So the way we have designed this program is that there will be a systematic exposure to Indian philosophy, and of course the approach to education in the various pedagogical approaches from our own Shastras will be taken, be it with respect to memory, or be it with respect to knowing it in in Kantapata, or looking at reading and various pedagogical approaches. And of course, yogic practices will be integrated. So health is very well taken care of at the ashram and the Gurukula. And exposure to Bharatiya Bhasha and Vijnana and Samskaras, Sanskritam, Ganita, Ayurveda, Jyotisha, what we call Nakshatra Vidya, Vedanta, Niti, and Dharma Shastras will be introduced. And exposure to various Gurukulam-centric pedagogical approaches will also be introduced. An opportunity to co-design elements of the Gurukulam curriculum. You'll also be involved in, whenever we design curriculum at the Gurukulam, you'll also be involved, whoever take up this fellowship and training program. An opportunity to integrate it to Dharma Gurukulam for the future, in case you want to stay back and continue your association with the Gurukula, then you're most welcome after the program. And exposure to various Gurukulam models in India. There will also be, depending on the COVID situation or whatever, we're also thinking that maybe enabling some travel to various Gurukulams that we have, we are connected to just know, even for example, looking at Veda Patashalas, what is the pedagogy that is followed there? Or it could be a school that teaches tribal knowledge, then what is the model followed there? Or it could be a music school, what is the pedagogy followed there? So all these are interesting areas to study, and they can always be adopted and adapted to these to however it's suitable in your own environments. And the way the program is designed is there will be common elements which will include philosophy of education and language, and values in terms of Itihasa, Bhagavad Gita, and Purana and Niti Shastra. There will be a vertical on science and logic, which includes Nyaya Shastra, and of course a little bit of Vaisheshika, the way we are able to configure in today's times. Computation, of course, Ganitra and Nakshatra Vidya, good amount of Indian math and astronomy you'll be introduced to, and the way how to present it to children. And health and well-being in terms of yoga, Ayurveda, and sustainability. And all these aspects will be introduced from the source text. So there will be some amount of Sanskritam orientation that is given initially. And then we will be in, looking at the source verses and, learning some of these source verses and then adapting it to the way children can understand, which we're already doing at the Gurukulam. So you will be initially observing how we do it. And you'll also be, if you already know some of these aspects, you'll also be contributing it directly. And of course, co-teaching at Dharma Gurukulam. And a typical day in the ashram and Gurukulam, this is what this Gurukulam children also follow. So there is Yoga Abhyasa in the morning, there is Guru Puja, and Go Seva is there. And you also have Gurukulam learning sessions, which are about 8:30 or 8:45 around that time. And you have again Gurukulam learning sessions from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. And 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. is free time for personal work. And 3:30 to 5 p.m. is Swadhyaya time, where you can engage in Gurukulam sessions, or you can also, assist the Gurukulam Acharyas in whatever they teach. And there is a break after that. There is Guru Puja and Bhajans, and 7:30 p.m. onwards, so there is time for oneself. So if you look at personal time, you might get about 4 to 5 hours, or say 3.5 to 4.5 hours of personal time in a day. And the dates we have currently looked at is June 26, 2022 to March 31, 2023. And it is residential at Anadi Foundation, Ivermalai, Palani, Tamil Nadu. Eligibility, we've kept it at minimum age 22 years. So any undergraduate degree is fine. Knowing Sanskritam will be an added advantage, though it's not mandatory. There will be some onboarding into the Sanskritam language and also looking at the source verses. So if you read to know Devanagari script, that will also be an added advantage here. So that is all I wanted to present today. And this is mainly, this is especially introducing the Acharya Devo Bhava fellowship that we have announced, and a few people have applied. And these are the details of the program. It will start in June, and it will be residential. And the dates, we also have a 20-day break in between for Diwali, and you can come back and then resume the fellowship. So during the fellowship, you will be during the teacher training program, you will be interacting with the acharyas, being at the ashram, teaching the Gurukulam children, doing your own swadhyaya, creating lecture material. And one of the ideas is also to enable people to consider starting their own Gurukulams in the future. And whatever skills we have developed in this process, whatever skills we have learned in this process, we'll be most happy to share, so that there are more and more Gurukulams, that Griha Gurukulams can be created out of this process. Or if you want to learn some of these knowledge systems through the teacher training process and offer it as small workshops in schools, or you want to create after school programs, all this will be a possibility once you go through this fellowship. So I will stop my presentation here, and thank you so much for listening, and looking forward to your questions. Before that, I will request Surya Narayan ji, who is a brahmachari at our ashram and also an acharya at the Gurukulam, to just check if he wants to add anything here. Yeah, you're audible. Oh, okay, you're traveling. Okay, yeah. Okay. You have something to add? Okay, it's fine. So if there are any questions, we'll be happy to take, or if you have anything to share, please do share.
Namaste, Smriti. This is Harini here.
Yes, namaste ji.
I wanted to know how is the, we have our own lives, right? So we are leaving that and coming to this thing. So is there any, how do most people handle it? Like, I know that there are people whose parents are, whose children are studying there, then they are able to come there. But what about people like us who are, who have a life outside the ashram?
So one thing is that this fellowship is, or the training program is designed to be residential. So we would very much encourage people to come here and then learn. And you would, we just concluded one round of the 108-day residential program, and we found that people with families managed quite well. So I think it should not be a problem. But as I told you, within after 3 months, you will have a Diwali break, and then again, it will be just another 3.5 months. So most people manage comfortably. Since it's a Gurukulam-based fellowship or training program, it's by being here, you also imbibe those things. And then, in the lifetime, it's just those 8 months that you're going to spend for this. But I do understand.
There will be some commitments, like say we are doing some projects. So would we be able to continue those projects online?
Yeah, you will get some time. You'll get some time, during the day, because a good portion of it will be self-directed, and hence, Say, for example, the Swadhyaya time or whatever, there is, those times can be used. Basically, it is, when if you feel satisfied that you have learned enough, then you can always make use of the time for something else. It should be possible. Online, yes, definitely it should be possible to continue doing whatever. And then when you come here, or whoever takes up the fellowship, when they come here, we can work out the schedules and things like that.
Okay, that's interesting. So online is not an issue at all.
Yeah, you can continue to work on. As I told you, there will be about 4.5 hours or 5 hours for
Aha, that's
yourself.
more than enough.
Yeah. So it's not a problem.
Because I'm already related to a lot of
Yeah,
students.
I know. Correct.
So
Absolutely.
I can't
I
leave
know
them
this.
in the lurch.
No. In fact, you can bring them with you.
Yes, that's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting.
In fact, in the Puranas, we read that Durvasa Maharishi had 10,000 students, and then they used to travel with him.
Yes. Yeah, Mahabharata Vanaparva.
Absolutely. Anybody else has a question, please?
Namaste ji, madam.
Namaste.
Namaste ji. Vijay Sound from Maharashtra, Mumbai. I have a few questions. The teacher training program, which languages it will be imparted? For example, Sanskrit, Hindi, or English? First. Secondly, this is the age of certification. I think you may be aware that everywhere all institutes are giving the certifications and participation on all these things. So in this particular scenario, how we will stand in the competition with Gurukulam and the certifications which are provided by the Indian institution, Indian institutes. So how would you rate this particular scale? And and the third one is how can if we are pursuing any course, or so can we continue with being in Gurukulam, that same program or the same course which if you are already I think enrolled in the program, so can we do that parallelly with the Gurukulam?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
First
to
is
answer your
language.
first,
First is language.
yeah. To answer your first question, the medium of mostly the conversations and this thing will be English. But of
Okay.
course, Sanskritam will be available, especially because since we are accessing the source verses, Sanskritam will be utilized to that extent, because
Correct.
it's not, just about effectively it will be about 6 to 8 months. That's all. So that, because you need to focus on the knowledge system, each knowledge system is quite rich that way.
In
And then
Sanskrit.
after a period of time, you will also start, narrowing down on 1 or 2 knowledge systems that you want to explore deeper and go into those verticals.
Correct.
Okay, so that is one thing. The second thing is that we will be providing a certificate. Of course, that is from Dharma Gurukulam itself and Anadi Foundation. And we will also be giving a detailed letter into what all you have covered as part of this. That is what will be available at the moment. And to your third question, you will have about, say, 4.5 hours or so to yourself. So that is the time when you can utilize for this thing. But if you are attending a regular course online, then it may be difficult to juggle both, because this Indian knowledge systems will be quite deep that way. So if, be it Ayurveda or Yoga Shastra, it will require good amount of, especially Ganita and all that. You'll need to sit with it, solve problems and all that. So you'll need on a daily basis, you'll need good amount of time. So it will be, if you're pursuing a full-time degree, it is going to be difficult. But if it is just 1 hour a day or 1.5 hours a day, it's not a problem.
Yeah. It's a 1 hour, half an hour.
It's not a problem.
And pertaining to the same study, Ayurvedas and all, naturopathy.
Yeah. Okay, right. That should not be a problem.
Yeah, it's not a different one. It's the same one.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. And there is a question on whether bringing the young ones along, and if they are too young, like in, say, for example, 1 year, 1.5 year, then it may be slightly difficult because the ashram environment. But if they are like, 4 years upwards, should not be a problem, so much of a problem, if you are confident of, managing them there. And during the sessions, they can just be around you, should not be a problem. When we say sessions, it's not like, sitting in a table and a bench and like a classroom. These will all be either under the tree or under in a kutir or, around the Goshala. So they'll all be quite interactive sessions, like typically how a Gurukulam functions. Anybody else has a question?
Namaskaram. Hi, I have a question. So, like you said, they'll be explaining all the basics. Is it? Are they going to teach the basics for the entire 8-month period, or will they teach us basics in all the particular subjects, and then we can choose field, and then we can go ahead and do a deep study on that? How will it be?
Typically, you will be choosing few subjects and then going deep into it, so that you have the satisfaction of having learned a subject, to whatever depth possible. But since it is also people who are interested in having their own Gurukulam or taking Dharma Gurukulam's initiatives forward in the future, but then exposure to the minimum content in all the knowledge systems will be encouraged. Then you will have a deeper dive into some of these knowledge systems. That is how it is.
So the whole 8 months is for the basic knowledge of all these fields.
Yeah, all the three, yes. And to the extent of very simple, in the sense, whatever you'll be able to relate to, even if you don't have a previous background.
Thank you.
And with respect to people who are part of the teacher training, it is completely free of cost for them. You don't have to pay anything, and accommodation and food, everything is made available to them. But in case there is a visit as part of the, you are visiting a Gurukulam or whatever, those expenses you may have to bear on your own. So the next step, in the sense, now that you have understood what this is about, I would definitely encourage you to go through the, the Acharya Devo Bhava fellowship. You can note down the URL, which I'm putting in the chat box, dharmagurukulam.org/acharya. And there is a form there, application form there, which you can fill. It's slightly more detailed. And in fact, there's a question on how will you be able to spend those 8 months based on your commitments, like Harini ji had this question. You can answer those questions, and we can take it forward from there. So we will be reviewing the applications. We have limited numbers that we can accept. But nevertheless, I encourage whoever is in this group, whoever has understood this and will be able to spend the time, please do apply to the fellowship.
So,
can we one more question?
Sorry.
Yeah, I had a question. So I was thinking that if, say, for example, as Lavanya ji asked, we go deep dive into Ganita, because
Yes.
my interest area is Ganita. So when we do the deep dive, are you there to support us for the deep dive? That's the first question.
They definitely were available.
And also, are we able to contribute to the development of curriculum further? Yes.
Absolutely. In fact, if you want to envision a curriculum and then see how to take it forward also, that also we are all available to just discuss and then co-design it and all that.
Oh.
Namaste.
So,
Smriti.
may I ask?
Yes. I just wanted to understand that this particular fellowship, is it an annual feature? Why am I asking this is because I stay outside India and I might need to do a little bit of planning because I have a 7-year-old child and he goes to school. So either bringing the child or like there are certain plannings and arrangements that need to be done, which is why I would probably want to plan a little bit ahead. So that's why I'm wanting to know, is this an annual feature or is it like once?
We hope to make it annual. See, for example, when we started the 108-day residential program in 2020, at that time we were not sure if we would make it annual, but then we realized that we eventually are making it twice a year. So I think most likely this will keep happening, this thing. But nevertheless, if you're able to decide, we have a Gurukulam functioning, so your child can be part of the Gurukulam and you can spend the year here. And after the fellowship, you can think about what you want to do next. That is also a possibility.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
So what would be the selection criteria and the process after we apply?
Selection process, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, we would have a conversation with people who have applied. Some of them have visited the ashram for other purposes. So one or two of them you already know. And some of them will give a personal call and then, find out more about them and their interest, especially how they would be able to spend the 8 months there. Because as Harini was mentioning, you have your own commitments and everything. So will it be possible? And other thing is that how would they make use of this IKS knowledge in the future? And what is their journey that they envision for themselves. All these we would be having a personal phone call with them. And then we would send out the decision.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram, Mata. Hello.
Yes, Sarvinji.
Yeah. So, is there a timeline like the process you were mentioning? Like any timeline you have? Like.
We will try to communicate the decisions as soon as possible so that you can, whatever commitments you have, it will give you enough time for that. So for you, I think you've already filled the application form. So we'll try to get back to you in the next few days after having a conversation with others who have applied as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
So I just wanted to repeat that please go through the website of the fellowship program, dharmagurukulam.org/acharya. And if you're interested, please do fill the interest form and then there's a question. Lavanya,
Yeah, one quick question. I just wanted to know if we have classes on the weekends as well.
Yeah, because it's a residential program.
Okay, 7 days a week we have classes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fluid in the sense of once you are in the ashram, you won't realize which is a weekend. So when we get in touch with the outer world, we actually realize that what day it is. So, otherwise, it's a very immersive environment.
And I just wanted to know, like, how will we be accommodated in washing and other qualities?
Yeah, so we
is it available on the website to check?
Sorry?
Or is that information available on the website? Then I can go
I will pass. For those who fill, we'll send you all those details.
Sure. No problem.
And someone from the Gurukulam will give you a call. Since you've already filled the form, we'll give you a call.
Thank you.
So if there are no further questions, yes.
Namaste, Smriti Madhuri here. My intention to be part of this orientation program was to understand if I can take the best practices of the Indian knowledge systems and weave into the initiative that I'm working upon. There is a part of as per I understand, as I understood the orientation, I think there's a part where we are going deep into each of the subjects. And then there's a phase where we are getting an overview, philosophy, and the broader structure. So is there a possibility that I would, because the role that I have taken up right now in this phase of my life is more about, philosophically bringing in certain processes, practices, and take that to weave in to the current initiative, then is there a flexibility where I can take that up and, if possible, omit the other part of the exposure?
The philosophy, though some part of it will be discussed, a lot of it will be imbibed through the courses itself.
Work.
You see, the knowledge, that the best part about these various knowledge systems is that the philosophy aspect of it is integrated, because it also draws from, it also draws insight from certain darshana shastras and all that. So the philosophy is basically integrated into this. So to demarcate it as a science and philosophy, it would be a little bit difficult that way. So the philosophy and pedagogy go hand in hand with the content itself. So it may not be separately, you come here for the first month and you understand the philosophy, and then that may not be the approach.
Okay, yeah, sure. Understood. Thank you.
So if there are no further questions, we can conclude this session. We'll conclude with an invocation. Om Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So thank you everyone for joining this session. I hope to see some of you as part of the fellowship. Do keep in touch. There are other ways to keep in touch with our programs as well. We have a Telegram channel. We have a WhatsApp group. We also have a Facebook page. I will share those links with you in your email. That is also a way to keep in touch for other programs as well. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.